All right, well, welcome to Lean Six Sigma Simplified. And, over the last 20 years, I've been working with lots of folks. And one of the things that really concerns me in the Lean Six Sigma world is we've become obsessed with training black belts and green belts and master black belts and everything else. And unfortunately, most of those tools are really designed purely for manufacturing environments. A handful of tools are really useful in other environments like IT and healthcare and service industries and anything else you can name. But only like 1 person out of 100 actually works on a factory floor where they can use all those tools. And so consequently, I think we've done a disservice to the industry by trying to teach people stuff that they just don't need. I sit in a weird place because the QI macros software makes it easy to draw the charts and graphs that you need for Lean and Six Sigma right in Microsoft Excel. And so I talk to a lot of people, and I'm always stunned by the number of people who've been trained in all these things, but they don't quite know where to start. So what I'm going to do is introduce you to what I call the Magnificent 7 tools, which will assist you in solving 99.9% of the problems that face most environments, especially in IT. Now, I spent 21 years in a phone company building software and everything from mainframes to mini computers to microcomputers. I wrote a book on Unix shell programming. So I know lots about the IT world. I've been following all the developments. I wrote a book back in the early 90s called Rapid Evolutionary Development, which is kind of, a flavor of what Agile has become. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. And so let's take a look at where we are here. In essence, most companies and most departments within companies are all running at about what is considered to be 3 sigma. And 3 sigma is about 6%, 7% error rate across start to finish, all right? Now, most companies, when they start up as an ad hoc startup. And I remember all the dot-com boom back in the before 2000 there. And so you start going and you invent processes and you try and figure out how to do it, and there's lots of rework loops and lots of waste and lots of things like that. And most companies start at about 2 sigma and get to 3 sigma using common sense, trial and error, gut feel, all the standard stuff. Now, the real problem, though, is you run out of gas right around somewhere between around 3 sigma or up to about a 1% error rate. I do a tremendous amount of work in healthcare, and all of the data in healthcare still says that they're at about a 1% error rate. That means 1 person out of every 100 that checks into a hospital will die due to a medical mistake. We still kill 400,000 or 500,000 people a year due to preventable things like hospital-acquired infections, medication errors, surgical complications, just all kinds of stuff. And that doesn't even touch on the people that are permanently disabled. That's another 6%. So there's tremendous opportunities, I think, in healthcare to save a ton of money if we really got aggressive about this. Now, the bad news about that is in healthcare, turnaround times and patient outcomes have not changed in a decade. So they're clearly in a position where we could save a truckload full of money. Out of a $2.5 trillion healthcare budget, there's an estimated $1 trillion that could be saved just by using some of these simple tools and applying them really quickly. So to take you from 3 to 4 to 5 sigma, I'm going to invite you to use what I call the common science of 6 sigma. This Magnificent 7 tools that will take you a long way and get you there in about 18 to 24 months if you're really aggressive. Then you're going to need the more complex science that we teach in green belt and black belt classes and take you on up to 3 parts per million in terms of defects. And most of you probably travel for airfare, and airfare is further up the chain than this. I mean, you have to fly every day for something like 5,000 years to have a good shot at being in an airline accident. That's one of the reasons we keep flying. All right, so this is kind of where we are. Most people are right there at about 3 sigma, and 6 sigma, and some of the tools from Lean can take you very quickly up to a much higher level. So I believe that most people are unaware of how much they're actually leaking. All right, so you're bringing in sales coming in, you got expenses going out. Your people, normally you can get about 85%, out of them. But in situations where there's downsizings and turnovers and everything else, you can lose 25% of your employee body because they're just worried. And they're talking and they're not working, all right? So when people are upset, they don't work as well as they should, and you lose about 25% of your people productivity. But I want to focus on the right-hand side, on what I call the 3 silent killers of productivity and profitability. So delay, unnecessary delay, preventable defects, unnecessary deviation, the 3 Ds are actually consuming 1/3 of your total revenues. You know, and this comes from Joseph Duran, one of the godfathers of quality, who always said, you know, 25 to 40% of any business is waste. And there's been a lot of research on this, books like Competing Against Time that we'll talk about, that have shown that this is actually true. So you're basically throwing away 1/3 of your total revenue on mistakes and errors and your, what I call your fix-it factory. So what we want to do is dig in and find ways to use Lean and Six Sigma to get rid of the delay and the defects and the deviation. Now again, in Six Sigma, we have all these tools that are out there. And I mean, there's an endless variety, and people continue to invent new ones, all right? You know, umpteen different kinds of control charts and whatever. And so in Six Sigma, we've been teaching, you know, green belt and black belt, what I call the long tail of tools. These are tools that you're going to use infrequently. And the black belts and green belts I talk to say, you know, that I invariably, if I need something, I have to go back and look it up because I've forgotten all this stuff. So I talk about money belts. And money belts use the 7 magnificent tools, and these will solve 90+% of the problems that are facing you. All right? And this is the top 4% of tools that really will make a big difference very quickly. And that's what we're going to cover in this session. Now, I also have a money belt training online on our website, so later on you'll see there's a link there to go see that. So Lean, you know, really started from the Toyota production system. I mean, that's where it came from in essence. And Toyota, back after the war, they couldn't mass produce anything. They needed to produce 3 cars and 2 light trucks and something else. And so they started to learn how to manufacture things in a way that we could do 1 of this and 2 of that and whatever we needed. And so it's made them very, very lean in terms of what they produce. You know, they have like 3 weeks of inventory anywhere in the world. 1 in the factory, 1 in shipment, and 1 on the factory floor. And if you compare that to GM and Chrysler, most of them have 9 months of inventory. So inventory can be very expensive. And so Lean really grew up out of that whole manufacturing, Kaizen, all of that kind of world. Now Six Sigma started at Motorola. And we all know that Motorola, you know, kind of slid back a ways in terms of being innovative. So you have to balance innovation and improvement, and innovation and improvement. And you can't have just one or just the other. You have to do both things. So we're talking about the improvement side of things. How do we make it fast, affordable, and flawless to deliver our product or service, to get rid of that 1/3 of dollars that we're wasting? I mean, we can add those to the bottom line. We can grow more customers. So Lean is really about simplifying and streamlining your operation. And that's what we're going to get into first. And Six Sigma is then about optimizing that performance. So in Lean, we talk a lot about value-added versus non-value-added activities. And this is also commonly called waste. So if you're trying to get rid of delay, I recommend that you use the tools of Lean. Every process I see out there, you know, is incredibly burdened by too much delay. It's not that people aren't working hard, it's that the thing going through the process is really running slow. So we have to get rid of the delays. And Six Sigma will help you tackle defects and deviation. And, you know, we talk in Six Sigma about variation. Well, variability of things.